Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Today we will discuss regarding the prism. What is the prism? First, we will try to make a definition of the prism. What are the various terms which are related with the prism? And we have to derive the important relation angle I plus angle E is equal to angle A plus angle D. When refraction is going through the prism, deviation produced by prism, we have to derive important angle I plus E is equal to A plus D. First, we will define a prism. We know that a prism we have seen in the laboratory is a V-shaped. It is a V-shaped. If you remember, it is just like this. It is a V-shaped portion of transparent refracting medium bounded by two plane faces inclined to each other at a certain angle. That means the prism is a V-shaped portion of transparent refracting medium bounded by two plane faces. If you look towards the figure here, there are two plane faces. They are inclined at some certain angle. This one plane faces A, B, E, D. This is one plane face. If you look towards the figure A, B, E, D, two plane faces. That means one face, two plane faces, or two plane faces. One is plane faces. One is A, B, E, D. This is one plane face A, B, E, D, and another is A, C, D, F. A, D, F, C. Yeah, A, C, F, D. What is A, C, F, D? And another is A, C, F, D. These are two plane faces. A, B, E, D is one plane face. A, C, F, D is another plane face. They are inclined at some angle. This is the angle. They are inclined at some angle. Inclined each other are called a refracting face of the prism. They are inclined at some, and this is the angle between them. The angle between them is called the line. This first of all, we will discuss the line. The line along which the two refracting faces meet is called a refracting edge. This AD is called a refracting edge. AD is called a refracting edge. That means where the two plane faces meet, they meet at this line along which the two refracting faces meet. This is the line through which these two refract. This is the one refracting face ACFD and ABED. This line is called refracting edge. This is called a refracting edge. The third phase, if you look towards the figure, third phase, that is BCFE. This is third phase, BCFE. This is the third phase of the prism, opposite to the refracting edge. This is the opposite to the refracting edge. It is refracting edge. It is opposite to the refracting edge. This is called base of the prism. The third phase. The third phase. What is the third phase? BCFE. But it is opposite to this. That's called a refracting edge. Opposite to a refracting edge is called base of the prism. Is called base of the prism. This angle A, inclined between two refracting phases. This is the angle. This inclined between two refracting phases. Refraction takes place from this phase to this phase. ACFD and ABED. This is the angle which lies between these. This is called angle of prism. This is called angle of the angle A inclined inclined between two refracting faces. What is two refracting faces? ABED and ACFD. This angle is called angle of prism. The angle between the angle A between two refracting faces. Between two refracting faces. What are two refracting faces? ACFD and ABED is called angle of prism. This is called angle of prism. That means this A is called angle of prism. If we take any section of the prism cut by plane perpendicular to the refracting edge, if we take this is the section of the prism. This it is perpendicular. This is the refracting edge. It is perpendicular. These two are perpendicular. This section is called principal section. That means if we take this section, this one, this section, if we cut here, it is perpendicular to the refracting edge. This section is called principal section. If we write here, that means if I cut here, this is called ABC. This is called principal section of the prism. That means any section of the prism, any section of the prism cut by a plane perpendicular to the refracting edge is called principal section of the prism. Is called a principal section of the prism. That means there are some terms which are related. That means these are called refracting. What are the refracting two plane faces inclined each other? They are inclined. That means two plane faces. These are called two plane faces ABED and ACFD. These are two plane faces. These are all called the angle between these two refracting faces. These are also called refracting faces. The angle between them is called angle of prism. And there is third face which is opposite to the refracting edge. That is called base. That is called, which is this. If you look towards the figure, that's BCFE. That means ACFD and ABED. ACFD and ABED. These are called refracting edges of the prism. This is called base of the prism, which is BCFE, which is opposed to this. This is called a refracting edge, where these two faces meet. This ACFD and ABED, where these two meet. They meet at this line. This is called a refracting edge, and this is called principal section. If we cut here any section which is perpendicular to it, that is called a principal section. The angle between these two faces is called the angle of prism. The angle of prism. When we look towards the prism, here we take only the principal section of the prism. We take only the principal section of the prism here. We take only the principal section of the prism here. If a ray of light, suppose this is the principal section A, B, C, we know that A is the angle of prism. If ray of light is falling on it, suppose here ray of light is falling on, it gets refracted here. It gets refracted because light comes from rear medium to denser medium. If we draw perpendicular here, perpendicular, that is this angle I. Suppose this is R1 here. Here it gets here. It is refracted here. When it is moves along from denser to rear, it emerges out. This is the emerging out of it. Okay. We draw here again normal here. This angle is called angle of emergence. Out जो हो रहा है angle of emergence. ठीक है. Suppose this is R2. If we produce this line here and produce this line here, this is called angle of deviation here. This is called angle of deviation. This angle of prism, this angle of incidence, this angle of mirror. We have to prove that angle I plus angle E is equal to angle A plus angle D. We have to prove first of this, and we will, when we prove this, we will learn also the angle of minimum deviation. Hope we will do this in the next class. But if you know this is the angle of incidence, this is the angle of invergence, this is angle A, angle of prism, this is angle of deviation. I hope you have got the angle of deviation. Angle of deviation is sometimes written as this is small deviation. You can write also D, this is deviation, this is the small deviation. We have to discuss also what is called small deviation. We will see in the next class. Hope you have got it. Thank you. We will meet in the next class. Next class we will do this angle I plus angle E is equal to angle A plus angle D. Thank you very much.